every time I talk about it, I choke up because, the joy of knowing my sons were alive was much greater than the loss of my business.
Welcome to Beyond Words as we now continue our series focusing on God in the Storm. And we're now live in a studio of Michael Sherrill. And Michael's an artist known internationally. Michael, I remember once I was on a cruise in Eastern Europe and someone walked up, a younger person walked up to the door, they started talking, and they said, "Do you know Michael Sherrill?"
Moved in my studio here 21 years ago, and being out in this environment has been the powerful influence in my work. I mean, it's changed my work from being an interior type of work where it was minimal and simple, sort of more urban. I fell right into this world, and it didn't take long before it started to change the way I saw things, the oddities and how life continues to grow, and it changed my work.
So Michael has been in the storm big time.
Actually, the night before, we went to bed thinking that we'd already had a lot of rain, and everyone said that this is going to be a pretty big event. They were planning for it. The fire department had sort of gone up and down the valleys, letting people know they were really in low-lying areas to evacuate. And we sat a little bit above the stream and no real steep banks behind us. We woke up to what we didn't expect. Basically, the water had just started ripping down the valley. I put on my raincoat and started going to my neighbor's house, and was standing close to where he was and watched the whole side of the mountain slide into the stream. And later on, I realized that it had backed up water toward my house, and then it kind of like flushed the whole valley and wound up taking out our two bridges and a large section of our road going down. And so it was waking up the next morning when the sun came out, we just were agog, looking around and trying to assess what we just went through. And then shortly after that, we started figuring out what's next. And part of it was trying to get to people and to make sure everyone was okay. So we did kind of a check of the people that we knew in our valley. And then we started cutting trails for a four-wheeler and to be able to get in and out. The second day, we had a big airlift here. There was probably 40 to 50 people that were lifted out by Chinooks and Blackhawks, and they dropped supplies and water and things like that. Most of us, had full refrigerators, so we're trying to figure out how to either have a generator or to preserve what we had. But the real thing was that my sons were both separated from us by being up the valley, one in a house that's at part of our business that's higher up, and my other son was right there in the heart of Bat Cave, right at ground zero. He lived in the apartment above our business called Mud Tools, and that was where the heartbeat, where we ship and receive, where we manufacture a lot of the things there on that property, and he was in the top. So it was 2 days before we could get across any kind of water. The water was so swift you couldn't wade it. So on that third day, I woke up and I said, I'm going to Bat Cave. And so my son and a friend, we just started hitting the trail. But as soon as we got on 64, we realized, it didn't take long to realize that we had had a tornado. And so all this lumber was laid over the road, and then in many sections of the road, there was no road. Either half of it was gone, or sometimes there was even more than half was gone, all the way down to the bridge in Back Cave. And so I'm standing there. They're putting a kind of a plank for people to walk from one side to the other, big 20-foot gap or better. And the first thing I cry out and I say, "Has anyone seen Micah?" He's the one that was in the apartment. And one of the guys that had been staying in the fire department with him said, "Yeah, he's okay." And then about that time, he turned the corner and started walking toward me. And then I asked about Atticus, and he said, "Atticus is okay too." And then Atticus came. But what the power of that is that one of my favorite lines in God's word is the father looking at the prodigal son and say, when he's afar off, it just every time I talk about it, I choke up, because the joy of knowing my sons were alive was much greater than the loss of my business. And after I asked about my sons, I said, did the building make it? And the guy shook his head and said, "No, it didn't." And sure enough, it was just completely wiped, almost like a clean slate, just gone. It had gone under the bridge.
It went viral, and I saw that first before I knew all that had happened to you, the family. And so I'm going to play it here.
Please take care of people in this disaster. Oh my gosh, the house is going. Oh my God. Oh God. Oh my God.
And what I want people to think about is what could have happened, but also tell us what really did happen as you look at that video.
Well, you have to realize that we had no internet or cellular data, so we didn't know any of this stuff was going on. So it was quite a few days before I ever knew that there was a video that existed. And when I did, I watched it, and I hear the neighbor up on the hill just happened to be filming the water coming up and caught the building as it came unmoored and rolled underneath the bridge. The top of the bridge clipped the top of the house, and Micah, after this is all over, was able to recover a piece of pottery of mine from a long time ago and a painting that he painted of his Uncle Scott. That's a real nice little painting. My son Mike is an artist, an incredible artist, and he does kind of a surreal style. You have to look him up. It's Michael Sherrill on Instagram. But he's the one that lost everything. I mean, as far as his clothing, the stuff that he had collected, which he was a big collector of kind of little memory stuff, and loved music, and it just, it's like everything was gone after that. And here again, for me, it was knowing that my son was alive after that. That I knew by that time my son was not, he didn't go down with the ship.
I woke up at 8:50, and I thought girls were packing orders in the office downstairs, and I saw the water, figured out that there were boulders hitting the house. And I got out, and I went in one time to get my rain jacket and got in my car and made it across the bridge to the firehouse. And at 9:50, the house and the rest of our buildings and the property under it were all in the river. And I had neighbors up the street that one couple, they lost their house and the car, but they made it across the bridge about 10 seconds before the bridge was gone. Wow. And they and another couple dodged mudslides for about 6 hours before they could get to the firehouse a couple blocks away.
Wow.
And when we were in the firehouse, the water started to rush in before it finally subsided.
and the basement door blew in of the fire station. So I go down there and try to shut that door. You can't fight that much water. And the water had risen to my waist in the 30 seconds I was down there.
Half out of half prayer, half plea, half just cry out for help. I told Tyler, I said, God parted the Red Sea. Can he not do something with this water? We didn't walk from here to the end of the driveway, and that's when those Connex boxes come down and cleared that log jam and actually stopped the water from running into the fire department.
The firehouse was shaking. There were tremors, and there were propane tanks going off everywhere. The whole gorge smelled of gas, and there were trees that looked like they were 100 feet grinding against the bridge like it was a wood chipper. We had freight containers that went under the bridge and popped out like they were empty beer cans, and boulders the size of cars just rolling around everywhere. When things were subsiding and we were able to walk out to the bridge, we watched the mountainside behind the Baptist church collapsing into the river, and it was, I was there with neighbors I hadn't met before, and everybody was amazing. Turns out I have great neighbors, and we were trapped there with the Henderson County Rescue Team for 2 days before the Army came and made a way for us to get across the bridge on 64. And that's when it took my dad that long to get to the other side of the bridge, and we were pretty happy to see each other.
I bet.
And debris, mud tools, which are ceramic tools for potters and sculptors, are now spread all over down to Lake Lure, and probably some in Lake Lure. So that was all of our machinery and a livelihood for 22 people plus. We fluctuate a little bit. And so we for almost a month, we've been on pause, trying to figure out how to restart and how to get going again. We built our business. I built that business out of my art, making art and selling art. My career's gone from being something like just wanted to be a potter, wanted to make really nice things and beautiful things. And I became a believer in this, I guess it was around 1970. And my awakening to Christ happened at the same time my enthusiasm for clay happened. It's almost like simultaneously happened. And so all through high school, I pursued the Lord and pursued clay. And I'm a dyslexic guy, so I didn't look at 1 year of college and did nothing but art classes. And I aspired just to figure out how to make a living. And little by little, my life's unfolded. I look back and I see God's hand in some things that I didn't know which way to turn, and just being patient and hopefully trusting Him. My life has taken me places I never expected, and I think that's maybe the thing that helps me have hope for the future is that I know that He's been faithful. All those years. All those years that I was scrapping for, living on $3,500 a year, trying to buy groceries and take care of kids. And this is in the early 70s then the gas crisis comes along. But I was provided for somehow. It doesn't make sense even looking back. And Mud Tools was built out of art money. So when my career started to become successful, I started making art instead of making pottery. And that art took me all over the United States at first, and then I've been all over the world with my art. And I just got back from Venice, where I had to work in the Venice Biennale, and which is a great thing. But I always laugh that I feel like I'm God's Forrest Gump. I show up in places and things happen that are God's blessing, and I can't account for them.
So, Michael, I called you several days after the storm, and you had connected with your sons, and you shared something with me then about how it changed your life. This whole storm did. And as we focus on hope in a storm, I think people would really appreciate hearing how it impacted you personally.
Yeah. It's my son's walking across the bridge. All the stuff that's out there in our lives, it's, there's stuff in the studio, and there's art in a container out here, and career and fame, or all that stuff is wood, hay, and stubble. It's all stuff that can disappear in a moment. But having faith in the Lord. I mean, I was, in the middle of my nights since this has happened, and I was doing that before too, is inviting him in and saying, I don't really know how to do this exactly, but I need your wisdom and I need your help. And I hope I'm an example to my sons and to my daughters that a faithful life following God is fruitful, and He has made me fruitful. He's given me a great family and friends, and that's, I mean, it's more important than money, and more important than having everything fixed back the way it was. Is fortunately I have my family intact, and so it reorients your sense of what's important. I mean, if your wife dings your car, your new car, that could probably get you a little riled up. But the reality is, do you love your wife as much as you love your car? And so those kind of things, this resets that, the things that are important. I think it's resetted things for my grown children, that they're looking at things differently, and they look at, and so the other outcome of all this is that this community, we banded together. It wasn't just one of us who did things. We all did things to help each other. And to be honest with you, the government showed up in the form of a helicopter, not in the form of a FEMA help, because that's kind of a tricky wicket there to figure out what's going on with FEMA. But our neighbors showed up, and we helped each other, and we didn't help each other because we were Democrat or Republican or all the stuff that we're going through with this election. We just helped each other, and that's really the world I want to live in.
Beautiful. Thank you, Michael. So grateful to you, and to have you as a friend and an inspiration in my life and to so many. Thank you for this time.